I've had a bit of an eventful ride. Well, hello again YouTube, and welcome to the final instalment in this part of my creatine experiment. So if you've watched any of the recent videos, you might be aware that 30 days ago or thereabouts I started taking creatine as a regular supplement and wanted to document this first month using it regularly to see if it lives up to all the hype. Now, if I'm honest, I was hopeful that over this first 30 days I might actually get some measurable stats from Garmin that I could use to evidence some increase in performance. And the plan was kick off the 30 days, so before I even taken any creatine, with a 2x20 FTP session on Zwift, and then after 30 days obviously see how I'm feeling, but also use that 2x20 FTP session to see if there's any measurable benefit or measurable change, shall I say. And spoiler alert, in terms of the numbers, they're really hard to come by. However, that second 2x20 FTP test that I did this week certainly revealed one metric that I think is significant. So why don't we shoot across to me by a computer where I'll talk you through what I saw.
Okay, so what I've done is I've opened up both of the 2x20 FTP efforts in the comparison view here in Garmin Connect. So you can see that the first one was 24th of July and the most recent one was 3rd of September. And if I look at the numbers on this headline page, I don't see a ton of difference. The one thing that I would say is, he says moving his face over there, the two graphs at the top do begin to tell the story. The most recent effort is reflected in the red line and the previous effort was reflected in the blue line. Okay, so you can see that in the previous effort I did kind of quit. I kind of backed off the power using the plus and minus keys in the workout in Zwift there, because I really didn't feel like I had the legs to go all the way to 20 minutes on that second effort, so I backed off there. However, when you look at the numbers, you know, they're very, very similar. Don't look at things like average speed, average moving speed on this. This was Zwift, and even though I tried to get them on the same course, I think I cocked up and put the most recent one on a slightly flatter course. So that means nothing. But as you can see, the moving time on both of them is absolutely identical. So that means that the kind of dynamic effort, I suppose I would call it, is the same on both of them. Heart rate is interesting because, again, you know, in the most recent one, the heart rate is higher than it was in the first one. You know, not significantly, but it is a few beats per minute higher. And you can see that in the most recent effort, I was definitely spinning a higher cadence. I think I've started getting used to that through the Zwift racing. And a couple of the workouts that I do on Zwift encourage you to spin faster than I normally do. So I think that's beginning to pay off there. The average power, only 2 watts up. So what's that? A 1% difference? Something like that? You know, that's not, I don't think you'd call that a statistically important difference. The respiration rates, you know, I guess how hard your lungs are working. I definitely looked like I was working harder in the second one. And that's borne out by the training stress score here, or TSS. So in the first one, TSS was 98. In the second, TSS 104.4. Now that does make sense because obviously I quit a little bit in the first one. So obviously, you know, there was more of an effort put into the second effort. But where I begin to see some identifiable differences if I zoom into these. So let's go into each one in turn. So this was the first effort. As you can see, if I scroll down to the power graph here, just about there, you know, I was kind of holding my 270, decided, haven't got the legs for this, and backed right off the power, you know, down to about 240. If I look at my stamina and potential as recorded by the Phoenix 7, started at 100, went down to about 76. Okay, so them's the numbers there. Performance condition started at +8, went down to -5. So let's bear in mind that's the first effort. Okay, the second effort, if we go in here, okay, now you can see just from the speed graph there were two lovely solid blocks of 20 minutes here. So didn't quit on the effort at all, and that's reflected in the power graph. You know, what's important is you can see it was sustaining power all the way through. I felt a little bit robbed when I looked at the stamina score because I really still felt strong at the end of this. And it started on 100 and it finished 3% down on the first effort, which I thought, yeah, I don't know why that is. And I was getting a little bit hung up on that. But then I scrolled back up and looked at performance condition. Now for me, performance condition is a much better indicator of where you were in terms of fitness at the end of the workout. And as it says here, you know, the performance condition is kind of a holistic thing. It takes all the other variables, heart rate variability and all sorts of things into account. Now remember, in the first one I started +8 and ended up -5. In the second effort, I started at +4, so I was probably slightly less well rested to begin with. But importantly, I ended up on a performance condition of 0, which is baseline. So bearing in mind, in the first one, I'd gone to -5 from a +8. And in this one, you know, I started from a lower point. And at the end of the workout, I was still maintaining kind of a baseline performance condition, not a negative performance condition. Now that to me feels like a statistic that matters. And it bears out what I've been feeling since I've been taking the creatine. And I've said this in previous videos. I just feel like I've got more strength deeper into the workouts. So when I'm, you know, out on a Sunday ride, long Sunday ride, at the end of the ride, I still feel like I can just keep pushing. Whereas pre-creatine, I knew I was ready to quit. And that's borne out by these, you know, what actually happened in these 2x20 FTP efforts. Where in the first one, I did kind of halfway through that second block and said, haven't got the legs for this, and backed off. Whereas this time around, no problems, just sailed through both of them. And the odd thing is, I actually felt, I would say, stronger in the second effort than I did in the first effort. And this was also borne out by the fact that just about a couple of hours after this, I went out for a lunchtime run and I did a VO2 max run effort, which was my quickest time over my lunchtime course that I've had. So go figure, you know, that to me actually feels like some statistics that matter. So when I began this, I added that post there to my YouTube channel, asking the question, will it make me faster? And I think the answer to that question specifically is possibly. But I think that was the wrong question. I think the question I should have been asking was, will it make me stronger? Because I definitely feel stronger. Where I see that most is on my Sunday ride, end of 3.5 hours. If I'm on my way home and I catch a headwind or run into an unexpected gradient, it does happen, I've got some really bad route planning. I would previously have just sort of said, there's nothing in the legs, back off, spin it home. Now, however, just 4 weeks into this experiment with creatine, I honestly, if that happens, I just seem to dig into a power reserve that I didn't have before. And I just seem to be able to sustain the effort all the way home. I think where I noticed that most was recently, where I was coming back from a Sunday ride, you know, I was essentially done. And even though I still felt pretty strong, I resigned myself to just having an easy spin home. Now, at that time, I was wearing a club jersey of one of the local cycling clubs I belonged to, and I ran into another rider who said, are you going to their Sunday ride? And I wasn't. I was on my way home, but I knew where it was. And they said, do you know, I think I'm going to be late for it. So I said, get on my wheel. And seriously, did like a fast group pace only for about 2 or 3 miles.
to help them get to their Sunday ride on time. Now, previously, you know, I would have probably just said, no, I'm on my way home, you're on your own, mate, you know, so that definitely felt different. But I think the results were really borne out by the 2x20 FTP session. In the first session, performance condition, that's the one for me that kind of told the story. In the first session, going from +8 to -4. In the second session, going from +4 to essentially baseline. So that second one is a much better result to me. Now, when you consider in that second session, I had the endurance to sustain the effort all the way to the end of 2 blocks of 20, whereas in the first, I kind of bailed halfway through the second set. That to me is quite telling. So if I were to ask that question again, has it made me stronger? I would say yes. Has it made me faster? Probably as a consequence of that, it has. But for me, it's the strength and the endurance that are the important things. I think for a triathlete, endurance, the ability to endure, is probably more important than all-out speed. And especially for me, as I go into, you know, the end of this season, I've got the last triathlon of the year, literally tomorrow. And as I go into the 2025 season, I'm looking to go middle distance, half iron, and then into 2026 back into Ironman. You know, as I get into those longer distances again, I think that ability to endure is a real benefit. So there you go. That's my experience. First 30 days with creatine. Am I going to keep this up? Yeah, for sure. As I've said in previous videos, it's a really safe supplement. It's proven to do no harm, and it's proven to do some good. And in addition to the kind of strength benefits I've just talked about here, I definitely feel sharper. Now, whether that's a bit of placebo because I've read that it has cognitive benefits, I don't know. And I don't know a way to prove that, to be honest with you. I just notice at work, I'll have better ideas. And, you know, even when I'm just in general conversation, I just feel a little bit sharper with a witty retort and stuff like that. So you never know. Anyway, I'm going to keep this up. And as I've said in the previous video, I think a month really doesn't prove anything. So I'll probably try and check back in after about 6 months. I'll make regular videos, and you'll be following me through the off-season training as well. So, you know, hopefully I can give you sort of regular updates there. But creatine, for my money, it's a winner. Anyway, if you've watched any of this series, if you've watched any of this video and you've got this far into it, thank you very much, YouTube. If you found this interesting, like and subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you in the next one.